As frontrunner Lai Ching-te makes his presidential candidacy official, the clock is ticking for opposition parties. More military equipment is added to Taiwan's arsenal, but concerns are rising over their ability to deter an invasion. Taiwan is pushing forward with its plan to become bilingual by 2030 as the country attempts to solidify its spot on the global stage. Plus, local designers get the chance to meet one of the world's most influential fashion figures at the GQ Men of the Year Awards in Taipei. Good evening and welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Eric Gao. Taiwan's January presidential race has its first official candidate. The ruling party's Lai Ching-te registered for the race in Taipei. But with the sign-up deadline approaching, it's far from clear what opposition he's going to face. Stash Butler reports.
With a stroke of a pen, the frontrunner to be Taiwan's next president registers his candidacy in Taipei. It's a step forward for current Vice President Lai Ching-te and his running mate Xiaobi Kim in their ambitions to take top office.
我们意志坚定，充满信心，敬请全国父老乡亲鼎力支持我们，让我们再一次团结在一起，推动国家继续在正确的路上继续前进。
The ruling Democratic Progressive Party pairing are the first to formally enter the January race, putting pressure on their rivals. Last week, Lai's main opponents, Hou You-yi of the Kuomintang or KMT and Ke Wen-je of the Taiwan People's Party agreed to pair up on a joint ticket. A deal that seemed to unravel days later, before a defiant speech from Ke suggesting he'd never yield to Hou to serve as his deputy. That could leave an embattled fourth candidate, the billionaire founder of Foxconn, Terry Kuo, with a path to becoming Ke's running mate. His campaign says they're in talks.
我们真的没有预设任何立场，不管郭柯配、柯郭配、郭柯和，任何的形式都有可能。
Hou You-yi's campaign insists a joint ticket with Ke Wen-je is still possible. But with the incumbent's ticket finalised and registration closing in 3 days, Taiwan's opposition faces difficult decisions with very little time. Klein Wang and Stash Butler for TaiwanPlus.
U.S. military aid promised to Taiwan earlier this year is starting to arrive. But critics say some of those weapons will only be useful during a war and won't do anything to deter one. Bryn Thomas takes a look at what's being added to the country's arsenal.
Part of a U.S. military aid package is arriving in Taiwan. The country is now adding thousands of machine guns and sets of combat gear to its arsenal. This shipment of small arms comes after Taiwan received surveillance drones, Javelin anti-tank missiles, and Stinger anti-aircraft missiles earlier this year.
数量啊，这个单一啊，或者这个品名啊，我不便透露啊。但有工作的持续在进行，我想这也是交流的项目之一，并没有想要刻意武装。
But some fear the shipment of small arms will do little to deter a Chinese invasion. China views Taiwan as part of its territory and has not ruled out the use of force to take the country. Key defense figures in Taiwan say things like machine guns, body armor, and shoulder-fired missiles are weapon systems used in up-close fighting and would only be useful after an invasion in on-the-ground fighting in Taiwan's cities. They say Taiwan needs to be able to disrupt attacks before they start. This means more strategic capabilities, like long-range missiles capable of hitting targets abroad.
短中程的地对地的飞弹，我认为这个必须要对重点目标给大家做摧毁。它还要集结，它要后撤集结，它不是前进集结，可能到浙江，可能到广东，可能到江西去集结。那我们的战略的缓冲的空间就大了，战略的预举时间也就长了。
The debate over the types of weapons needed comes despite Chinese President Xi Jinping saying he has no plans to take military action against Taiwan. Xi denied reports of a proposed invasion in either 2027 or 2035 in a meeting with U.S. President Joe Biden at the APEC Leaders Summit last week. Taiwan's defense ministry insists it's ready regardless.
不会因为他讲的一句话，就把目标整到2023、2025、2027、2035。 健经备战它没有停的，国军健经备战，它主要目的就避战，但这个避不是逃避的避，就避免发生战端。
As cross-strait tensions rise, Taiwan will continue to seek ways to deter an attack and to stock its arsenal with weapons it hopes it will never have to use. John Su and Bryn Thomas for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan's government wants English to play a bigger role in society, starting from schools. But while the plan has plenty of backers, not everyone is on board with this bilingual 2030 policy. John Van Trieste explains.
Take out your textbook right now. And then today we're going to focus on Unit 5, 第5课.
As Taiwan's government sees it, English is the future.
In summer, during this,
Kyoto has so much more to.
It's a policy of the ruling Democratic Progressive Party to make the country bilingual in Chinese and English by 2030. And it's at schools like this that better English begins.
Right now, let's take a look at paragraph 2.
Officials want more schools teaching English through English. And in schools that are ready, they even want some other subjects taught in English too. But Taiwan schools have always taught the language. Why push the bar up to bilingual?
Taiwan is a trade-dependent country, and we are making every effort to attract multinational companies to Taiwan. Unfortunately, a lot of times we lose out to Singapore because those multinational companies found that our professionals are not that fluent in English as the Singaporeans are.
Chinese character, all right?
The National Development Council, charged with making the plan a success, says Taiwan needs English to ensure the country's voice is heard on the world stage. That's especially important given the growing clout of nearby China, a country that claims Taiwan as its own and does its best to keep Taiwan out of global organizations. Experts have good news. For a non-English-speaking country, Taiwan has a high percentage of high school grads with strong English language skills.
These are women dressed in delicates.
We conducted a baseline study of English proficiency for the Ministry of Education back in 2020. And that showed that 21% of students at senior high school were achieving upper intermediate or advanced levels of English language proficiency.
But this enthusiasm for English has some strong critics. Among them, Professor Liao Xianhao. He says too much English too early will stunt students' first language, their critical thinking, and their academic performance. He also sees Taiwan's local languages, including Mandarin, withering away.
And, countries like Holland, the Netherlands, Norway, and Denmark, they are becoming aware of the pitfalls of this whole policy. So Holland, I think in June this year, the Ministry of Education has put out this regulation that the universities should at least provide 2/3 of the courses in Dutch, for fear that the Dutch language would become obsolete one day.
The campaign to become bilingual is going ahead all the same. So what does it look like on the ground? Here at Neili High School in the northern city of Taoyuan, students can choose an experimental biology class taught in English. Though the English teachers here see a boost in language skills, they say it's come at a price.
It requires a massive amount of work for them to be really proficient in English and to connect with different those vocabulary, those technical terms in different fields. So at first I feel very stressful.
Teenagers stayed up all night because of abundant assignments.
And the students clearly feel the same way.
What the hell is this education about?
Stressed teachers, stressed students, and a tense political debate. It doesn't have to be this way, some experts say. Dr. Stephen Krashen, who has spent decades studying language acquisition, is one of them. He's found that with gripping stories and a lot of free reading, stress-free bilingualism is not only possible, but inevitable. Kids need libraries filled with good books, both in English and their native language, and the rest will take care of itself.
What we have found, for every hour of reading you do, you gain about 0.5 point, actually a little more, on the TOEIC test, which means a couple of years, you're way up there. Not from doing flashcards, not from studying grammar, just from reading. And the best thing we can do is supply kids with lots and lots of interesting books. Testing will not even be an issue. They're going to score very high on all kinds of tests of comprehension and on tests of speaking, because that's the result of getting this input.
Indigenous culture is diverse. Earth is what we are made of.
For now, conventional language classes are still the norm, and packed schedules leave students little time to read for fun. But Taiwan's people and government do have a choice to make. Is English really Taiwan's future? And is the current plan the right way to get there? As 2030 inches closer, time is running out to decide. Howard Zhang and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan's October export orders fell by more than 4% compared to the same month last year. It's the 14th straight month of year-on-year declines, but the economy ministry says a turnaround next year is possible due to demand for the country's AI technology.
景气的循环上升，以及台湾科技的发展，AI 的发展，对台湾的 GDP 明年有这个3%的成长，是这个机会是非常大的。
For more on Taiwan's declining export orders, our reporter Jeremy Olivier spoke to Gary Ng, a senior economist at Natixis.
Taiwan's export orders have been falling for over a year now. How significant is this trend to the country's economy?
Indeed, if we look at the economic structure of Taiwan, it's quite clear that a lot of the growth is actually driven by export-related activities. We're not only talking about the export or import growth here, it's also about the related investment that fit into the domestic economy and, of course, wage growth in the consumption sector as well. So therefore, when we see such a big decline in the Taiwan's export in the past few quarters, that has definitely been quite painful for the economy as a whole.
So the main industries that are being hit are more traditional, like steel, machinery, and plastics manufacturers, while semiconductor and high-tech orders are actually increasing. So what accounts for this difference in overseas demand?
For some of the traditional products, one of the main biggest problems that they face is that nowadays it's very hard to find a very strong growth engine in supporting all this consumption in the short run, because the majority of the world basically are still in a rather high interest rate environment. And of course, there is a bit of cyclical positive momentum coming from China. But again, we see that growth is generally decelerating, which basically means that even if China import more from the rest of the world, it's not strong enough to actually lift commodity prices.
China is still Taiwan's biggest export market, but we now see that export orders from the US and ASEAN are surpassing those from China and Hong Kong. So what does this mean?
What it tells us is that basically a lot of the Taiwan export and the supply chain is actually driven by US clients or the related supply chain. And if there is an ongoing shift of the supply chain towards ASEAN or India, basically outside of China, on demand from the client, then Taiwanese firms will probably simply just need to follow the trend. Of course, in the short run, if China's growth actually rebounds and it remains slightly better than the rest of the world, it's possible that we see more exposure from Taiwan on China again. However, if we look at it from 5-year, 10-year landscape, it's quite likely that because of this very US-driven trade structure, basically Taiwan will probably see more opportunities in diversification towards the other side of Asia.
That was Natixis senior economist Gary Ng speaking with our reporter Jeremy Olivier. Fashion icon Anna Wintour made an appearance at the GQ Men of the Year Awards in Taipei. Sandy Chi was there.
Looking sharper and living smarter, GQ Men of the Year Awards is menswear's big night, this year held in Taipei. As always, the awards attracted huge crowds, wanting to get a glimpse of men in style, from fashion and sports to art, tech and entertainment. But this year has been slightly different, as it has a special guest, Anna Wintour, widely considered one of the most powerful figures in the fashion industry.
Just looking forward to seeing what everyone is going to wear. Yeah? I hope they're going to be fearless, fun and chic like you.
If you still don't know who she is, you may know the best-selling novel and movie, The Devil Wears Prada. Wintour is said to have been the inspiration behind the character of infamous fashion editor Miranda Priestley, played by Meryl Streep. Prior to the awards, Wintour met with some local designers to get to know the fashion industry in Taiwan.
到一个很重要的特色就是说，设计师在创作之余，其实需要顾虑自己的国家的传统文化。他昨天的分享其实会让我们更加有信心，我们在坚持的台湾文化其实是没有错。
Along with Wintour, the event celebrated award winners, with Icon of the Year going to Oscar winner Ki Hui-kwan.
Oh my gosh, I was so happy and so excited because it meant that I can be here. I can come to Taiwan, all these years, I love this place. I have nothing but fond memories.
Despite so many stars showing up for the awards, one in particular attracted attention. Australia's singer, rapper and director DPR Ian, who won International Artist of the Year.
My thoughts on receiving the International Artist of the Year award and being invited here, I can honestly say it's quite spectacular. Honestly, I don't even know if I really deserve that big of a title, but for what it's worth, I would gladly accept it.
是要看艺人走红毯，觉得很难得来一次台湾，还是想要看一下他本人。
This year, around 40 stars from Taiwan and around the world attended the awards, which represent the innovative and fashion-forward attitude of GQ magazine. And with Wintour at the event, Taiwan's fashion industry is likely to have more opportunity to spotlight talent on the international stage. Devon Tsai and Sanny Chi for TaiwanPlus.
Coming up, we find out how one Golden Horse nominated director's art transcends the silver screen.
In the face of adversity, the power of truth.
A roadmap for a just and open world, charted by the freest country in Asia.
Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
TaiwanPlus News, a voice of freedom in Asia.
For more stories from here in Manzu and around the world, download the TaiwanPlus app.
We bring you stories from Taiwan.
Every day of the week.
Our reporters travel the nation.
Exploring the issues that matter to you.
News from here in Taiwan and around the world.
What's up, Taiwan? On TaiwanPlus. Welcome back. You're watching TaiwanPlus News. Indian authorities have released the first footage of workers trapped inside a collapsed tunnel in the Himalayas. The 41 workers have been trapped for 9 days now. They are getting food, water, and medicine through a pipeline. Rescuers are planning to drill vertically into the tunnel to get to them. Previous attempts were halted due to an alarming cracking sound. It's unclear what caused the initial tunnel collapse. Taiwan's cracking down on outdoor smoking to reduce the harm from secondhand smoke. The health ministry has extended smoking bans to more than 160 outdoor spaces, and this includes national parks, forest recreational areas, and other green spaces. Smoking is only going to be allowed in designated smoking areas. Violators could be fined up to $300 US. Greenpeace says the clean energy targets of the world's main tech suppliers are not enough to avert climate disaster. A new report from the NGO says emissions from electronics manufacturers need to come down as soon as possible. It says only 4 of the world's 11 biggest suppliers, including Taiwan's TSMC, have set 100% renewable energy targets. Greenpeace is calling on all of them to achieve that goal by 2030. Famed auteur Tsai Ming-liang may be in line for his 6th Golden Horse Award and 2nd Top Documentary Award this year for his new film, Where. Tiffany Wong spoke with him to learn more about his work.
Amidst the hustle and bustle of Paris, a monk dressed in red robes takes life one step at a time. Where is the 9th film in Malaysian director Tsai Ming-liang's Walker series. Each film follows a monk, actor Li Kangsheng, stepping carefully through city streets spanning a decade. Conceptually, each artwork might appear to be the same, down to the subjects, the director's muses who have each starred in multiple of Tsai's films. But the director says markers set each film apart.
每一个背景里面的一些人事啊、物啊，其实都有一些落差啊。每个地方的对行者的反应都不同。比如说里面的人啊，比如说巴黎的人就特别的会靠近他，有些地方是跟他很疏离的，所以每个地方都不太一样。
Another one of his films screening at the Golden Horse Film Festival in Taipei this year is Days, which depicts the quiet moment when two men's lives intersect in a similarly drawn-out style. The older man struggles with an illness, while the younger man toils through life as a migrant worker. Tsai says that while the slow pace of the films might not be to everyone's taste, he hopes audiences will reflect on the busyness of their lives and re-examine the ordinary.
有人看完日子，他说他等红绿灯，突然间觉得那个红绿灯没有那么烦，为什么？因为他愿意安静下来一下，就没有那么赶。其实生命就是这么长这么短，你再赶你也赶不到哪里去。我觉得，不如好好的欣赏沿路的风光。
Tsai's films are renowned for depicting everyday objects as art. Likewise, an exhibition of the filmmaker's work in Taipei is filled with carefully placed items. Comfy, worn chairs are scattered throughout the space, allowing viewers to take a seat as if relaxing in their own living room. Paintings of his muses stand propped against the walls, which are scrawled with Tsai's diary entries. By depicting ordinary things, the director hopes to give everyone the freedom to interpret his work as they want.
我的作品已经呈现在这边，而且不是一个难的作品，是一个非常生活、贴近生活的一个呈现观众应该很容易懂的。如果是这样，这个每一个东西都要有意义，我觉得是没有必要的。一定要说的那么清楚，真的是也没有必要的。
And where will the series continue? Tsai isn't so sure. Wherever the monk chooses, he'll follow. Where is up for Best Documentary at the Golden Horse Awards this Saturday in Taipei. Scott Huang, Luffy Li, Yujing Huang, and Tiffany Wong for TaiwanPlus.
For more on director Tsai Ming-liang and his films, check out our mini documentary, The Pursuit of a Cinematic Dream, exclusively on the TaiwanPlus website. You can also watch 3 of his earliest films there. Sumo wrestling in Japan is traditionally a sport for men, but women do participate at the amateur level. Our reporter Sandy Chi was in Tokyo to meet a female sumo wrestler and to better understand the challenges she faces.
Training with a wind board with power and precision. This is 20-year-old Hasagawa Ryo, a member of a sumo club at Kyoto University in Tokyo. She joined in 2022, becoming the first ever female member since the club was established over a century ago.
うちの兄2人が最初相撲をやってて、で兄弟の中で結構ちっちゃい頃すごい元気だったので、そのまま父に道場に連れてかれて始めることになりました。
Ryo joined the sport because of her family and has their full support. But it hasn't been easy for her to get to where she is today. Her journey was made harder because sumo wrestling is traditionally a sport for men in Japan. It was only in 1997 when the first amateur tournament for women happened. Female wrestlers started getting more recognition after that.
なんか昔は結構そういう女の子なのに相撲してることをちょっとよく思われないこととかもあって、やっぱなんかこう男子の中で一人でやってることをよく思わない人とかなんかいたので、なかなかこう受け入れてもらえないかなと思ってたんですけど、なんか自分でこう突き進めていったら。
Instead of trying to convince the doubters, Ryo chooses to prove her professionalism and seriousness in the ring. Her performance has already won the respect of some other sumo wrestlers.
ものすごい強いんで、できるも本当すごい尊敬できる先輩でもあって、すごい自分も戦いたいって思える相手であります。
Ryo undergoes the exact same training as men in the club, which is sometimes challenging for her. However, that does not stop her from pursuing her ultimate goal.
なんか私は自分で相撲なんだろうな、昔は結構大人の意思というかやりなさいって言われたから相撲やってたんですけど、今は自分で強くなりたいと思って世界一になりたいと思って。
Ryu is not the only one with that dream. Female wrestlers from Taiwan have also journeyed to Japan to prove they've got what it takes to win in the ring.
我觉得女生也可以，对吧？因为现在其实都是算是男女平等的，对啊。之前可能是因为相扑，他们就是有一些观念，可能他们会觉得女生不能到图表上面，但是我觉得现在观念可能比较改变。
But while there's growing interest in the sport among women, female wrestlers are divided on going professional.
就是觉得可以平等，就不一定有些项目只有男生，其实女生也可以。
大相撲って今相撲界でプロって言われてる世界はやっぱりアマチュアとはなんだろうな、そもそものこのなんていうんですかね、ものが全然違うと思っているので、そこに女子が入るっていうのはあんまりこう私個人としては望んでなくて。
These athletes are divided on what path they want to take in the sport, but their shared passion keeps them fighting the same battle, both inside and outside the ring. Kamashu, Scott Huang and Sandy Chi for TaiwanPlus.
Thanks for tuning in this evening for Taiwan Plus News. You can visit the Taiwan Plus website or follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally, check out this British artist known as Mr. Doodle, making art live at a Hong Kong metro station. I'm Eric Gao. Take care.